And the problem is that a lot of the Americans who are going to the malls are broke and they're shopping anyway. And they're buying stuff that they can't afford, that what Americans were really thankful for, right? Back when we had the first Thanksgiving, we were thankful that we gave up on socialism and adopted capitalism. We know it doesn't work because they almost all died. That's how bad it is. Anyway, so Thursday is Thanksgiving. And Friday is Black Friday. Although Black Friday now, I don't know. It stretches for weeks at this point. And then you got Cyber Monday and all these holidays that come around. And, the problem with all these holidays, they are basically glorifying spending and consumption, acting like these are these important days because that's when Americans run to the mall and shop. And the problem is that a lot of the Americans who are going to the malls are broke and they're shopping anyway. And they're buying stuff that they can't afford and they're paying for it with credit.
This is the harsh reality of the modern economy. We aren't celebrating prosperity, we are celebrating debt. If you believe the system is broken and want to learn how to protect your wealth, hit that like button and subscribe right now. We're here to expose the truth.
Now, none of this should be, celebrated, right? People who are struggling should be encouraged not to go out shopping this Christmas. Put their credit cards away, right? You could celebrate Christmas without, a bunch of expensive store-bought gifts, right? You're not doing your family a favor by going deep into debt on a holiday, right? But this is what we encourage. And of course, all this stuff, right? All the Christmas presents that Americans are going to stuff into stockings or slip beneath trees, all that stuff is imported, right? Donald Trump is upset that we have these massive trade deficits. Well, Christmas is part of the reason, because all of the Christmas presents, Santa's workshop, right? It's not in the North Pole, right? It's in China somewhere, right? That's where it is. In fact, when kids write letters to Santa Claus, that's where they ought to send them. Send them out to China, right? Because they're making all of our toys.
Schiff is highlighting a critical imbalance here. While Americans go deeper into debt to buy gifts, the real wealth is being transferred to China. Consumption doesn't build an economy, production does. And right now, America is just a nation of consumers.
So, why are we even encouraging everybody to go out and shop? It's just going to run up the trade deficit. And now, of course, a lot of these Christmas presents are going to be tariffed. So they're going to be even more expensive. So now the Americans are going to have to borrow even more money to buy these presents. But, the real economic growth doesn't occur where the goods are consumed. The real economic growth is where they're being produced, right? And anybody can go and buy stuff, but not anybody can make stuff, because making stuff requires capital, right? It requires infrastructure, investment, supply chains, workers. Just taking a stimulus check to the mall doesn't require anything. So we're celebrating all of the wrong things when we turn this into a big shopping holiday. If people really understood the meaning of Thanksgiving, and I've talked about this in prior podcasts, but a lot of people don't understand that what Americans were really thankful for, right? Back when we had the first Thanksgiving, we were thankful that we gave up on socialism and adopted capitalism, right? Because the early settlers in America when they landed here and they came across on the Mayflower and they set up their colony. They originally organized a communion that was kind of a Marxist. Of course, there was no Karl Marx way back then, but it was the exact same principle on which, Karl Marx founded communism. It was from each according to his ability to each according to his needs, right? It wasn't, everybody owns some land and farms it. Everybody came, and it was like a communal effort that everybody would just work as hard as they could to grow food, and then everybody would contribute whatever they grew into a communal, whatever they had, and then everybody would eat what they needed, right? It was a group effort, and they almost starved to death. I mean, literally. I mean, the whole country never might have got off the ground. They basically, they did exactly what Mandami, right, thinks is such a great thing. Right? There was no individual profit incentive. There was no exploitation of the worker. There was no boss or business owner. There were no greedy capitalists, right? It was like, hey, we're all going to cooperate. We're all going to work for the benefit of everybody. Nobody is going to eat any more than anybody else. Everybody is going to benefit equally from the work that we all do.
This sounds great in theory, doesn't it? Equality for everyone. But Schiff is about to explain why this utopia turned into a nightmare. When you remove the incentive to work, human nature takes over, and the result isn't equality, it is starvation.
Well, the problem was nobody worked. People kept getting sick. They didn't feel like working, right? Why work? Why bother? If you're not going to eat any more food because you work hard, why work hard, right? If the next guy who slouches off, if he's got as much of a claim on the food that you produce as you do in your family, then why do anything? It creates this moral hazard. Under socialism, nobody wants to do anything, right? That's why this nonsense doesn't work. People talk about this idealistic society where everybody just does what they can, right? And nobody's going to study. No one's going to. Why are you going to work hard to get a high mark when you're just going to get a C, right? No matter what, right? You're going to get the same grade whether you work hard or not. So, have fun, right? Because the guy that does have fun, he's going to get the same grade as you. And so that's how it worked in socialism. That's how it worked in America when everybody almost died. And it wasn't until they changed their economic model and said, okay, forget about this socialism. We're going to, carve up the land, and we're going to assign to each family their own land. And the people who own that land, you farm that land, and whatever you grow is yours, right? You get to keep it. Nobody else can claim it, right? It's every man for himself. You get to reap what you sow, right? Capitalism. And you know what happened? Thanksgiving. They had such a huge bounty of food. All of a sudden, when you eliminated this collectivist mentality and you had incentives where people could own their own little piece of land and reap the rewards of their own work. So if they didn't work, they didn't eat. But if they worked, they ate like kings. And so everybody worked and everybody benefited.
This is the core message. Private property rights and personal responsibility literally saved the Pilgrims from extinction. It wasn't government distribution that fed them. It was the freedom to keep what they produced. That is the true origin of American prosperity.
And, that's the real story of Thanksgiving. They're celebrating capitalism because they didn't die. They almost got killed from socialism. But, they don't teach the real story of Thanksgiving. in our schools because most of the teachers are themselves socialists. They don't understand how capitalism works. So they're obviously not going to try to explain that to their students. So if you have any young kids this Thanksgiving, you might want to tell them the story. And there's more details. I'm leaving some of them out. In fact, I know in other podcasts I've gotten into it more detail. There's some articles that really describe this online, so you could brush up on it and you could talk to your kids. It's almost like, at a Passover Seder, you have the story of the Exodus and Moses, and you tell everybody, why we're celebrating Passover. This is what people should talk about on Thanksgiving, especially, it's an American holiday, but it's also about capitalism. And it's a lesson that people need to learn, because now you got everybody that wants to give socialism a try. We don't have to give it a try. The Pilgrims tried it. We know it doesn't work because they almost all died. That's how bad it is, right? It destroys every community it infects. And even a little bit of socialism does a lot of harm. Look at all the problems that we have in our economy today. They are all the result of socialist policies and programs that got mixed into capitalism. And the worst part about mixing in a little bit of socialism with capitalism, other than all the harm that it does, is that capitalism always takes the blame, right? It's not socialism, right? No, it's, look at what capitalism did without any appreciation of the socialism that actually caused the problem. But the worst part about that is then the solution that is proposed is we need more government. See, look how bad capitalism is. It screwed up housing. It screwed up healthcare. We screwed up education. We have all these crises that now need to be fixed. And the solution is always more government. More government just makes the problems that government causes even worse. The solution is always less government. Roll back government. Get rid of government and have more capitalism.